Hello, you absolute legends. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the very first episode, the pilot episode of Pistons, the podcast. It's a new idea, something that a few of you have pitched, something that me and Dad have had a chat about. It's not going to be shiny, it's not going to be beautiful, but hopefully it's going to be something that you watch on the coming weeks. We're going to get a format again. It's all new. I've got my clipboard and it's just basically going to be Dad and I having a chat in the workshop about things that we are doing, things that we're getting on with, and things that we thought that you might like. You've got your cup of tea there.
It's empty.
It's nearly empty. It's taken that long to set.
I've been waiting for you to perform.
Set the workshop up. If you like this concept, thumbs up please. If you could subscribe if you haven't already done so, that would be awesome. And if you could put your comments in the comment box below, because there's going to be a Q&A section every week. So if you've got any questions you want to ask me or Dad, he's the genius, then put them in the comments box below and we will answer them if we can. How are you?
All right, thanks, mate.
Good stuff. We've got a lot to catch up on. We are going to start with Tool of the Week.
I'm going to say this every week. He's behind the camera normally.
Tool of the Week. Of course, that's going to be me. But this week, it is on the centre of our beautiful coffee table. No expenses spared. Here it is. Stay tuned until the end of the video when Dad is going to reveal to us what Tool of the Week is. If you think you know now, however, put it in the comments.
They do this on Bargain Hunt. He walks round and shows people stuff. What do you think it's for?
Ah, okay. It's not an original idea, but Tool of the Week, and you'll explain that to us at the end of the video. That has come from your tool collection, by the way.
It's just come from a bottom of box where it's been hiding for the last 30 years.
It's not something that we've gone out and bought purely for this podcast. Right, part one, Rover 75 update.
Yes.
We've been to the Rustival. We will segment into the Rustival in just a moment's time. But for those
seen that now.
No, the Rustival isn't on the channel yet. It's coming. But Rover 75
it's the Motor Museum's on the channel.
Yeah. If you haven't seen that video, we went and had a look around the British Motor Museum.
And I saw a co-best. Excellent.
75 update.
Yes.
When's the next sill being done?
When you've bought one.
Can we not use that sill we've already got?
No.
Oh,
You're going to buy one of them decent ones. Save me a day's work.
Fair enough. Not much to report really on the Rover 75. We went to Rustival. We've been to Mablethorpe. That was all good. Our Rustival video is coming. But yeah, not much to report on the Rover 75.
Everybody's rushed out and got the Rustival videos out, mate.
Yeah, I know. We see, I'm being tactical.
Oh,
when everyone's watched all the other ones.
But they'll all be Rustivaled out.
We're just going to stick a little Rustival video out. That segments us nicely then into the next part, Rustival Roundup. Yeah. We went to the Rustival.
We did.
This week. There is another segment coming up, which is what have you been up to this week / what's in the workshop. Yeah. But let's talk about the Rustival first and foremost.
Well, that's fresh in my mind.
We are going to do a separate video on the Rustival, and I filmed sort of 6 hours of cars, and now I'm regretting my life choices and the fact that I've got to edit it. Tell me about the Rustival. What did you think?
One of the best car shows I've ever been to, I'll be honest with you, old mate, because it was so. It wasn't the same old stuff you see at car shows, which is nice to see something a bit newer. Future classics even. Yeah, future
absolutely.
Classics, aren't they? And some proper old-timey classics. So you've got everything.
If you haven't seen or heard about the Rustival and you've just found this, the Rustival is I would call it an inclusive car show for everybody. Yeah.
I think the YouTube peoples, the big league YouTube peoples, I'll call them.
Yeah.
Put their heads together and decided, let's do a different sort of car show.
So held on.
I'll be honest with you, the format worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Held on the 9th of March this year, 2024, at Gaydon, the British Motor Museum. I'd never been before, you'd never been before.
No, mate.
The big YouTubers, as Dad has said, Hubnut, Ian and his partner, Miss Hubnut, Steph from iDriveaclassic, who, as you know, has driven some of my cars on her channel, and Matt from Furious Driving. Also from the Rover 75 fan club, And also Matt Pink as well, who is not a YouTuber, but he is an event organiser, put together this event, didn't they?
Yeah.
Held at the British Motor Museum, and I think the best thing about it was the whole of the car community that are in this little bubble got together and made it such a fantastic event.
Yeah, because I think they all put something different together, but how do I put this? They're very popular YouTubers.
Absolutely.
Steph's videos are amazing, but I mean, Furious Driving, I always find him interesting because he's always doing something different. And Steph's always doing something different. Then there's Hubnut, well, it's just boom, so much info all the time, you know.
And that's the difference. Hubnut is a genius, and I think he comes from this automotive journalist background.
Yeah.
Steph, I've actually known Steph a long time. She's from the same sort of part of the world, and we went to school together. And she obviously is bringing the classic car world not only to female drivers, to bring female influence, but also she's bloody good at what she does, and she takes the cars out for a spin. And she champions the owners as well, and sometimes goes for the weird and wacky. And yeah, as you say, Matt from Furious Driving, he's always doing stuff, and he's got quite a large collection, I think, of British Leyland stuff and Rover and all that sort of thing. He has got a Wedgwood Blue Rover 75, and actually he's just released a video where you featured quite heavily in the comments.
Yeah, I spotted it last night. I was just popping through, and all of a sudden, Furious Driving pop. Oh, crikey, a blue one.
Yeah, and thanks to the team there as well, because we were placed in our own little section at Rustival for YouTubers. We are two guys in a shed, as you can see, talking nonsense. So we appreciate all the support about that. And that leads me nicely on to the next part of Rustival. Well, you were the star of the show.
Well, people recognise me, but then they only recognise me because I stood next to you.
I'm quite distinctive, aren't I? 6'4" odd and quite large.
People who I wouldn't recognise suddenly looking as if they're smiling and hello. And, you know, I'm truly amazed that so many people watch our videos, really. And I'm humbled by it in a way. I'm just a silly old bloke in a shed who's well past retiring and shouldn't be tinkering with cars at all, really. Because most chaps my age have got to sod it. I've had 50 years of it, I don't want to do anymore, but you make me keep going,
yeah,
you see.
I'm sorry about that. I do have a large fleet of cars, which sadly I can't really look after myself. It's just started raining. It's just started raining. Good.
I've got to get my washing in.
Let's get the washing in, and let's get an umbrella over the camera. Well, I think we're okay now. You've got your washing in.
Yeah, the washing's in. It was nearly dry. I was putting that out this morning at 6:15.
We've sort of lost the flow a little bit. We was talking about Rustival.
Yeah, Rustival.
We was talking about the show. We was talking about how humble we are.
I was amazed. One couple lady asked for a picture with us.
Yeah.
I thought, that's the first in my life.
You'll be signing autographs next.
I don't think so.
I think the takeaway from the Rustival Roundup is it was a bloody good show.
It was.
We had a great time. The Rover 75 got there.
It certainly did.
And I think we're ready for Rustival 2 already. We'll just have to find something else to take. Maybe a Proton next time. Rustival, we'll do a full chat, we'll do a full roundup about that. Quickly, what was your favourite car of the Rustival?
The Rustival? Oh my giddy aunt. Actually, in the show.
In the show, not in the museum,
in the show, it's impossible to say.
There were so many cars though, weren't there?
No, it's impossible. There was so many good stuff there. It's impossible for me to say.
I'm going to go really left field, and I loved it ever since I saw it. And it's something that I don't think anyone would ever see coming. It's not a Proton, it's not a Rover, it's not a Fiat Punto, it's not anything that's a little bit quirky. Well, it is quirky, but it's a modern car. It's the Honda S660.
Oh, you fell in love with that, didn't you?
I fell in love with that. It was in this gorgeous
pearlescent
colour.
About it all day, to be honest with you.
And it's a lovely thing. So much so that I've been away and looked at how much it would be for me to buy one, and I will not be buying one.
I did say to you what my favourite car was, and I cannot remember now.
It was the Jaguar. Is it the TH Works or the TC Works?
The red XJS.
There you go.
It was. That was because it wasn't in the show, was it?
No, it was in the show.
It was in the show.
Not in the museum. In fact, it was better than the one in the museum.
It was. It was a TWR XJS.
There you go.
Body kit, stuff like that.
Star of
We
the
used to
show.
take them to Tom Walkinshaw Racing. Or whatever they say.
Nice. As I say, the Rustival video is coming. If you're watching this later, the Rustival video is on the channel, and the link will be in the description below. That leads us on nicely to the next part. What's in the workshop?
Excellent.
Tell us what's in the workshop this week.
My favourite car in the universe. Nissan Note.
There's no Peugeot 406 in the workshop.
No,
there's no Rover 75.
She's over yonder, mate.
It's getting wet in the rain.
She's over yonder.
The Nissan Note is in the workshop.
It
Tell me
is.
about the Nissan Note.
This is where it lives when I haven't got some of your trash in.
Trash. Also, we've got behind you a motorbike.
Yep.
That's your...
Yeah, if it wasn't raining, I should be riding it now.
I won't lie, the what's in the workshop segment this week is quite boring because there's nothing being repaired. There's no...
It's been repaired.
What do you mean it's been repaired? What have you done to it?
See that there?
Yeah?
That was on the Nissan Note.
Oh my goodness. That is the Nissan Note... Oh, I've got filthy hands now. That is the Nissan Note brake disc, obviously. From the front or the rear? Looks like a front one. Yeah. Very, very rusty. Very rusty. Perfect for the Rustival. Perfect for
Been
Pistons.
brought out of hibernation.
Podcast. Look at that now. Now I'm filthy.
There's a rag.
Yeah, I do.
That'll do.
Like a magician, you've always got a polishing cloth in your pocket. Good. What else is happening with the Nissan Note this week?
Well, I've had all the wheels off. I took her outside, took all the wheels off. I pressure washed under the wheel arches, and then we had a dry day.
Hey,
And guess what I did?
you cleaned it.
I wax oiled all under the wheel arches.
Really?
I did.
Did it need doing?
It jolly well did.
Have you wax oiled it previously, or is it your first
It's been
time?
done with some clear, but this time I put the old black stuff on because
good.
it's starting to get a little bit rusty under there. So
Considering it's not something you drive very often.
And I did the rear brakes, took them to bits. I painted the drums as usual, and then I did discs and pads on the front.
Good stuff.
Robert's your mother's brother.
How long did that take?
It was a day.
Days worth of work on the Nissan Note in the workshop. What will be in the workshop next week? Who knows? Find out, but that's going to be
Bit of woodwork, maybe.
recurring
Make
feature.
a planter out of this box.
No, this is my new coffee table now. Right, it's time for the exciting time of Q&A.
Excellent.
Q&A. These questions have been submitted for this episode by people on both Twitter and YouTube. We've got loads of questions, and there's loads of questions that we won't get round to answering this week. So if we haven't answered your question this week, then it will be on next week's episode or in an upcoming episode. There's some for me, there's some for you. Have you looked at these questions?
I had a quick brief look through, yes.
That takes the fun away a little bit, but
No, it doesn't. It'll give me a chance to prepare.
this one is for you. This is from Vegard Dillerud on Twitter.
Yep.
He says, have you ever been to Norway or the neighbouring countries?
Never ever been that side of the world, no.
And then goes on to say, how do you find your popularity on YouTube?
There's lots of words to describe it. Surprising, humbling. I can't believe it, really.
Because you're I'm sure you're the first to admit you didn't really want to be in front of the camera.
No.
And it's sort of
I'm just an
naturally...
old retired mechanic who wanted to stop in his shed and tinker about now and again with the lights dim.
But am I right in thinking you quite like it now?
Well, we spend a bit of a chat together. It works best when me and you are just talking rot to one another.
Exactly,
That's what
exactly.
It's all about.
So your YouTube fame, you like it though?
It's nice.
Vegard, thanks for the question. We'll have to do a road trip to Norway or somewhere.
If we're going, we're taking a Nissan Note.
Something reliable, maybe not a Rover 75.
No.
And the next question is for both of us, really.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a chance to think about this, so I might come out with some drivel. Gentile, who is from Gentile's Garage, we met him
I was talking to him
at the Rustival.
He was telling me
Hello.
about, he was telling me about what sort of vehicles they have in his home country.
Yeah, which is Portugal. So thanks for watching, Gentile. He says, what modern car feature would you have on a classic car? I know that cars should be left original, but what modification or upgrade do you think has benefit on the usability of a classic?
That's a no-brainer.
Go on then.
Get rid of the points. Cars break down because they've got points in them. Put electronic ignition in, as long as it's a reliable one. Because a set of points, if they go wrong, you can fix them. If your electronic ignition goes wrong, you can't fix it. You're doomed, aren't you?
Your answer is totally different to mine. You've gone and thought mechanical, you've gone and thought practicality, take out points and put in a modern electronic ignition system. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as long as it's reliable. Because if you've got electronic ignition that breaks down, you still want to carry your points with you to put it back in, because at least you can make them work.
So I haven't had a think about this. The first thing that comes to mind for me is something that I think would be practical inside the cabin, and that's a heater. I know that a lot of cars from sort of the 40s, including my Armstrong Siddeley, they have a heater, but it's a bit trash. So maybe some sort of aftermarket heater. I know Morris Minors are aftermarketly fitted with heaters. I just think it's the sort of thing that everything should have. And it obviously makes your classic more usable as well, doesn't it? You can use it in the winter, you can use it in the autumn, and actually on a day like today when it's this sort of day, especially when you get intermittent rain and you start steaming up a little bit. So for me, a modern feature in a classic car is a heater. If I had to think of something techie, think of something techie that's not a starter motor.
Who, me or you?
You.
Something techie?
Yeah.
What?
Modern comfort. Real modern comfort.
A modern comfort in a car?
Yeah.
There's nothing, is there? You can still open the door with your key, can't you?
Yeah.
You see, my Uncle Brian, your great Uncle Brian, with his sit-up and beg Ford pop, used to say, you have to wait for the gearbox to get hot to get warm in the cabin.
I think my modern feature techie tech would be sat-nav. I rely on it.
Yeah, the trouble is the traffic's that busy, isn't it now? You haven't got time to think which way you're going, you need to know, else you're in the wrong lane.
Yeah. There you go.
But then again, I still think I could have got to the Rustival without a sat-nav.
But would you have been as quick as me? We would never know. El Profo on Twitter says, this one's for you. What is the first motorcycle you ever owned and what is your favourite?
Right.
Now we're talking.
Now we're talking something interesting. Now, does he mean mopeds or does he mean motorcycles?
What is the first motorcycle you ever owned?
CB250.
That's a Honda.
It is.
Tell us about it.
It was my first 250. And I can remember the night, first day I got it, I was going down through the Bennington Bends and I was going faster than the speed limit and I got overtook by a police Norton commando who was just showing me how to do it.
What happened to that bike?
Traded it in.
For?
500 on there.
Nice. And how old were you when you owned that?
I was 17. I got it the day I was 17.
What colour?
Gold.
Oh, nice. The next part of the question, what is your favourite motorcycle?
Favourite one I've ever had? CB504. It had got drop handlebars, rear set footrests, sports exhaust, and it was a beast.
Good stuff. I can't really comment on motorcycles. I've only ever had one, really, which wasn't really a motorcycle. It was a moped, 50cc, the TGB 202 Classic. In fact, it's back there in the workshop still, waiting its fate. I think what's going to happen to it?
We're going to find space at your house and you're going to put it in stock.
Oh, what's part of the channel? I drive a moped. Thanks, El Profo, for your question. Yeah. Turn 6 garage. This one's for me. What got you into protons? Was it a car or something that always got your attention? No, had never heard of them until I saw one for sale. Long story short, Mrs. John Coupland and I were going on holiday the next day. She was working until, I think, 10 o'clock at night. I'd had my tea, I was bored, I was waiting to go on holiday, and I did what any normal person does, which is go on Car and Classic, see what's local for less than £1,000, and I saw this car, which was my Proton 1.5 SE LE, the very first one I bought, saw it was in Skegness locally, saw it was dirt cheap, and rang the bloke up and went and bought it that night. Mrs. John Coupland was furious. I thought, this is a cool little car, and then I all of a sudden realised just quite how rare they were and fell in love with them. They were really underappreciated. People didn't really seem to like them. They were the butt of all the jokes. And they're something that I love, and obviously my obsession with protons has grown and grown and grown. People know me kind of now as the Proton Man. I've obviously got my Proton Black Knight. I've got a Proton 1.5 SE. I've got a couple more Protons. I like the early ones. I'm not a big fan of the later ones, especially things like the Savvy that have got the 1.2 Renault engine in there, or the Gen 2. It's sort of lost their appeal there. But yeah, never knew about them. Never even knew they existed until I bought one. How about you? Did you know about Proton before I bought one?
Yeah, but I didn't really sort of have anything to do with them. I knew a Jumbuck existed and they always looked really smart. Then you turned up with them and you think, well, it's a good 1990s car for going places in.
It's a Mitsubishi underneath, really. It's reliable. They suffer with the usual issues.
Lurgy.
The lurgy, which is tin worm. But no, I'm a big fan of Protons, big advocate for Protons. Am I responsible for the Proton Renaissance in the UK? No. But am I responsible for bringing Protons to the masses recently? Yeah, probably. Me and Steph from idriveaclassic and a few other people, George Cox. Yeah, I think winning the festival was exceptional.
If you can get one that's not rotten, you've got a good daily driving car.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Protons. Thumbs up for Protons.
Especially if it's a fuel-injected later one. Because I'll be honest with you, they did suffer with carburettor problems, the early ones.
Next question comes from Summers W20. Was there always an interest in the odd and unusual, and what attracts you to that stuff? This, again, I think is for me.
It is, definitely.
I am an eclectic person. I have never run with the crowd. I have always liked to be a bit different. If someone says you need to wear all black to a funeral, I would turn up in an all purple suit. I am that sort of person. I like to be a bit different. What interests me in the odd and the unusual, because I'm a weirdo, but also I appreciate the underappreciated. So things that are street furniture now, Fiat Doblos, for example, I think they're cool. I think they're unloved. Fiat Multipla, we saw one of them at Rustival. I tend to go for the unloved brother as opposed to the loved brother. So if someone's looking at a Ferrari and next to it is a, I don't know.
Oh, they chucked the blooming flywheels out of the windows anyway.
Yeah, we went to a show and there was a Ferrari. Everyone was looking at the Ferrari. I was looking at the Citroen Berlingo next to it. I'm just a weirdo, and that's what attracts me to that sort of stuff. The next question, this is for you, from XCOM987. What was the best and worst car engine that you've ever had to work on, and why? Let's start with the best.
The best car engine? Well, it's got to be your old A-series, hasn't it? It's in everything.
Morris Minors.
Yeah.
Is it in Fords?
It's in Morris Minors, and it's not in Fords.
No, of course it's not.
It's in Minis, it's in 1100s, it's in Allegros, it's in Marinas, it's in just about everything that British Leyland turned out that was little.
And I'm, again, not mechanically minded. That's the green engine, isn't it? You see it's normally a green top. It's in the front of your Morris Minor.
It breaks, you mend it. It breaks again, you mend it.
And why is that the best engine to work on?
Because probably I've done so many of them, you can do them with your eyes shut.
I have a funny feeling I know the answer to this next one. What is the worst car engine you've ever had to work on, and why?
No, I'm not going to say the obvious.
Oh, I thought you was going to say the K-Series engine.
No.
VVC.
No. Yeah, that's not very nice. Yeah, very, very complicated. I've done lots of them, but I've still got it in my mind when the chap at the next bench had got one put together and it was wrong, and it struck up and ticked over, and then he revved it, and I can still hear that noise now. I'll dream about that noise.
Do that again. And what did that mean? It blew up?
Well, it wound up.
Right.
The valves hit the pistons, and the pistons bent over, and the pistons got lumps gouged out of them, and it was an engine rebuild job.
Oh dear.
And it haunted me, that did.
But that was the K-Series VVC.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be your worst engine pick.
Not really, because I wouldn't have thought so. No, what is me worst and horriblest engine? Well, engines aren't too bad, really, are they?
I don't know.
Engines, they all work the same sort of way.
what would make it worse? I suppose access.
Yeah.
So, for example, a 1 point something K series in a Rover 75, easy, right?
Changing the engine on a Velsatis is horrible.
A Renault Velsatis.
It's even worse on a Renault Espace.
Why is that? You've got to take everything off.
Yeah, I remember the general manager come through and I'd got the engine out of a Velsatis and he says, I've never seen so many bits off a car.
So we're going to go with the Renault Velsatis engine. Yeah. Right, fair enough. Good question, XCOM.
It's not actually the engine itself though, that's getting it in and out.
Interesting. That's a good sub-topic we can go into. What is the hardest car to work on? We'll come to that another day. Urukai has said, how do you select your project cars and what has happened to the Jag? This one's for me.
It is
how
definitely.
do I select my project cars? If I've got 500 quid in my pocket and I see a car for sale and it's 500 quid, I buy it. How do I select my project cars? That's a very good question. It leads in nicely to the question from Summer. If it's odd, if it's unusual, if it looks relatively simple, if it's something that I find interesting, and if it's something that's cheap enough, money I think comes down to most of it, then I will buy it for my collection. I've got to like it. I'm not a car trader, so I'm not buying and selling cars. There are cars that I sell. There are cars that I think I can make £500 on that, and that then funds the projects on the channel. How do I select them? It's very random. If I like it and I know what I'm looking at, then I will buy it. You'll probably notice that I've got more than one of each thing. So Audi TTs, I've got a couple of them. Audi A4s, I've got a couple of them. Nissan Micras, I bloody love them. I've got 4 of them. Protons, again, if I know what I'm looking at and I think it's a nice little project, then I will buy it. What is the, just going off on topic there, what's the worst project car that I've ever come home with? We know what it's going to be, right?
It's caused us the most grief.
But is it the worst?
I'm just trying to think. I don't like to do it because they're a bit partisan. Audi TTs are in trouble. Old Audi TTs, they're expensive to mend. The faults are fairly simple, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they can be fairly terminal if you're putting money at it.
We've done a few in our time.
Yeah.
Audi TT. What happened to the Jag? That's a very good question. So I bought a Jaguar S-Type, 51 plate. It was the pre-facelift edition. Or was it the facelift edition?
I don't know, I kept out of the way of it.
I can't remember. You never saw that, did you?
I did see it, but I didn't like getting anywhere near it. Really.
What happened to it? I'll tell you what happened to it. It drank petrol. It was the 3.2 litre, that would be a V6, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It took about £100 to fill, and Mrs. John Coupland and I drove it to Alton Towers and back, which isn't far really from here, and it drank the tank. That's what happened to the Jag. I sold it because it was going to be really expensive to run. It's got a nice new home. I still see it about. It's local. I sold it to an enthusiast who was using it as a daily driver. It was a good looking car.
Yeah.
It was in really good condition, but for somebody who has got a large fleet of cars and gets about a bit, it would not have been economical for me to run. So I sold it. That's what happened to it. Thanks for your question, Urukai. Couple more then. This is from Chris.
Right.
Chris Tanner. He says, what car do you regret not buying? This could go to both of us, I think.
I just buy a car because it's cheap and it'll get me about. You buy cars with emotion.
Yeah. So you don't really buy cars and you haven't really bought many cars.
I'm not into buying cars.
That's my job. I'll tell you what car do I regret not buying. There was a 1960s, 1970s Fiat 500 for sale. It was in bright pink. Mrs. John Coupland has one, a modern one. If you've not seen it, it's on the channel. And it popped up for sale, relatively local. We'd organised to go and see it, and actually we were pipped to the post by someone who probably offered the guy more cash because it was a bargain. It then popped up again for sale with an extra sort of couple of £1,000 on the top 3 or 4 years later, and it was worth that price at market value. And Mrs. John Coupland really wanted it. And I regret not buying it for her because I think it would be something that we could have shared in together, gone to shows with together, and would have got her more interested in the classic car scene. That is the car I regret not buying.
I do have something to say to you though. I'm butting in. What do I regret not buying while they were affordable?
Oh, you tell me, because
2CV.
Yeah.
Because you could buy them for nothing. People would nearly give you them to get them out of the way.
Yes.
And now they're expensive.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And I'd like to take that to a car show. You can drive slowly, you haven't got to rush about, because you can't rush about.
No.
But I've followed them, one back from Scarborough to the Humber Bridge, and he was cruising nicely at 60 mile an hour. That's what more do you want? But they were affordable 10 years ago. They're not now.
There you go. 2CV
Not
is
as a
Dad's
toy.
pick. No, absolutely.
A good one, no.
They're in the enthusiasts' hands now. Clampy says, what is the best workshop trick you've learnt from your dad? Not a lot. I haven't learnt much, really, from Dad. I am probably quite bad at this. Best workshop trick I've learnt from you? Clampy, I'll have to come back to you next week, I think. I have to think about it.
Well, it was either you weren't interested or I was too busy mending cars to show you stuff.
That's a future question, so hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. Richard Knight says, if your garage caught fire and you could save just one car, which car are you saving?
But you?
Well, I'll ask you first, then I'll tell me. Out of all my cars in my collection, they're all on fire. Everything's on fire, but one is salvageable. What are you going to salvage from my collection?
It's got to be the MR2, isn't it? Because that's the only one that's sort of... The rest of them can go, can't they?
That's my answer as well. It's my Toyota MR2. It was my first classic car, kind of. Me and Dad restored it together. I'm very vocal about its relevance in my life. I wasn't happy at the time. I was going through some personal stuff, as we all do, as an angsty 21-year-old. And me and my dad fixed it together and it got me back on the straight and narrow. So yes, my MR2 is the one I'm saving. Sorry, Proton Black Knight. Sorry, Micra, which is my first car. Sorry, Armstrong Siddeley. Sorry, everything else. It's my MR2.
Yeah.
AD says, how did you get the Nissan Note? That's good because it's in the workshop.
I was looking for a good practical car for your mum.
Yep.
And this was on the forecourt with 12,000 miles on it. Not quite 3-year-old. And she says, oh, I like that. Then when she drives it, she doesn't like the black windows.
So she was sold on the aesthetics, not the practicality. And now
She wanted a car with a flat back.
Yes.
Bit high up, easy to get in and out of.
Yeah.
But then she drove it, she doesn't like the black windows. So I've kept it.
The next part of that question from AD is, do you think a modern car would last as long as your 406 nowadays?
Yeah, I'd have thought so. But it's a mending of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting parts for them now. Yeah, getting the parts from them. I was talking to somebody in the tyre factors, and MG won't release the data so people can make OE spec parts for them.
Very interesting.
Not yet, anyway. Probably they're going to have to do in the future.
So the modern MGs, the MG3 and all that sort of thing, MG won't release the technical data.
So it can't. OE parts can't be made yet.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That's what they were saying, because they're having to do some. They're doing for Enterprise, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
And they have to use genuine factory parts at the moment. Whether there is a law to say that they'll have to release it in time, but at the moment you can't get.
I quite like that, because obviously you're having your Hyundai repaired and it will be an OE spec part as opposed to a genuine Hyundai part. And I would probably want a genuine part on my car.
Which was interesting. I thought it was interesting when they were telling me that.
Chuntintorn Sam Gong Sakdi, I apologise if I haven't said that right, has asked a question. It was inevitable. The question about EVs has come up.
Yeah.
If EVs take over, how are we going to keep up the tinkering tradition? Great question. Great question. I love that. We're not, are we?
We're all going to have to go out and get an EV ticket.
Yeah. Is that... Have you got one of them? Tell me about the EV ticket.
It's only for doing lockout, mate.
Right.
It's to make it safe before you work on it. That's all it is. I'm not licensed to touch the batteries. In fact, I was talking to a man about this Alan Simpson's mate.
Yes.
And he was explaining to me how you deal with the batteries. So you split them down into units so they're not 400 volts. So then you can start working on them.
That's very interesting. I had never driven, by the way, an EV vehicle up until about 2 days ago through work. We now have the Peugeot 208 EVs. It's the E208 or something like that. I couldn't comment about EVs because I'd never driven one. I actually think it was quite good. The range isn't fantastic for what I'm doing with it, but it's good. I enjoyed it, and actually I had a good look under the bonnet. I had a look around. It's fascinating.
Has it got regen braking? So I suppose you don't have to use the brake pedal hardly, do you?
No. And it's got a dial on it, so when you're cruising or coasting, it actually says it's recharging itself. I don't know how that works. I'm sure some clever person in the comments will be able to explain that to me. But yeah, EV takeover. How are we going to keep up the tradition, the tinkering tradition? People have got to learn new skills, right? Is it something someone could do in their shed?
Don't think so.
No.
Would it be economically viable?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not. Daniel says, if you had a Ford on the fleet, what model would be your favourite? Well, I'll answer first and then you can answer. I had a Ford KA or a Ford Cat or a Ford Car, whatever you want to call it, on the fleet. I loved it. It was great. It was small. It was economical. Tin worm killed it in the end. I would have, in my fleet, another Ford KA car. Your turn.
Problem with this is, though, what did King Tinworm really kill that? Would we have been keeping it going? Do you know what I'm saying?
That's a good question. What you mean on the
people
panic?
Think, oh, I can't do this. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're paying somebody to do it, it's not economical, is it?
No, absolutely not.
So you've given this car to somebody who can't fix it, and then it's lost. If you see what I mean. If it had gone to an enthusiast,
they would have repaired
they'd
it.
have fixed it, and this car would still live because it was a low mileage car, wasn't it? It was a pretty car.
Yeah, but that's what I would have back on the fleet.
Me?
How about you, Ford?
Me? I'd have a sit up and beg Ford Pop.
Nice, easy, simple answer.
1950s sit up and beg Ford Pop. I love them.
Good little cars. Terry Atkinson says, and we touched upon this earlier, how did you get to this age not learning all about cars when you've got an expert under the same roof? Terry, I like music and I like girls and I like cash. And when I was the age of wanting to go out in the garage, or would have been able to go out in the garage with Dad to learn about cars, I was too busy chasing local ladies and earning cash. That's the answer. Now I'm doing it now, retrospectively. I'm learning now. We're getting there, aren't we? I'm learning. Pentagram Motorsport says, for someone starting out, what essential tools should they buy? This is a great question.
Yeah, this is yours. Well, now it's going to be 18, isn't he, when he leaves, because he has to work, stay in. Then again, you can be an apprentice, can't you?
Yeah.
Good 3/8 drive socket set. Don't buy rubbish, buy a good one. I've still got the same one I bought when I was 18.
What is that, a snap-on set you've got?
It cost a lot of money. I was paying for it weekly. Good screwdrivers.
Again, snap-on?
A snap-on ratchet screwdriver, but no. Other manufacturers' screwdrivers are probably better than snap-on.
What would you class as a good screwdriver?
I hate to say it, but Sealy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because screwdrivers wear out.
How are you going to spot a good screwdriver? How do you know?
You don't until you've got experience.
Fine. So speak to people that have got screwdrivers in their toolkit.
If it's a sensible price. Kamasa, because a screwdriver wears out, you throw it away. But socket sets, buy a good one. I've still got the same blooming socket set I've had. Some of the regular sockets wore out, even snap-on wears out. And then if you're really naughty, you can break it on purpose and then you'll change it. And you've got to
I don't advocate that, by the way.
Well,
Where you gone?
Snap-on ratchet screwdriver.
Yeah.
You need one of them. You can do anything with one of them. And when the tips wear out, you just put a new tip. Use a new tip.
So good socket set.
Yeah.
Good screwdrivers.
Yeah.
What else?
3/8 drive socket set.
And a 3/8 drive socket set. Good screwdriver set.
Yeah. And a set of combination metric spanners.
There you go. That's all you need from the man himself.
Well, no, it's not all you need, but that's a good start.
Good start. Good essential tool. And a jack. An axle
Well, no,
stand.
because you'll be probably, if you're a mechanic starting off, your company will start work, so that.
Fair enough. Last 3 questions. I'm going to move this one down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Where did your dad get his interest in car mechanics to follow it as a career? Actually, I genuinely don't know the answer to this question. I've never asked you this in my lifetime.
From being a little boy, I always wanted to be a carpenter.
Okay.
Because I used to hang around in the carpenter's workshop on the farm, because in them days farms had bricklayers, carpenters, mechanics, everything. They were self-sufficient. They could do anything themselves. There was bricklayers on the farm because there was always maintenance to be done. So it was a big farm, like. And I used to hang around in the carpenter's shop, and I wanted to be a carpenter. But then when you get a bit older and you're interested in motorbikes and you start thinking motorbike, I used to hang around in the tractor workshop, and then I wanted to be a mechanic. But one of the old mechanics, and he was this dirty old oily old bloke who was always oily, he says, you don't want to be a mechanic, boy, you want to be a carpenter, but it's not so dirty. But I wanted to be a mechanic. So,
And you've kept your hand in with your carpentry as well?
Well, yeah, because I still enjoy doing it. I was good at carpentry. I used to skip PE to do woodwork.
So the answer really is, because of you hanging around on the farm as a kid,
Yeah.
you got exposed to the tractor world and the mechanics of the tractoring, and so that's how you wanted to follow it as a career. Interesting, Bad Books.
Hanging around practical people.
It's taken me over 30 years to find out the answer to that question, or even ask that question, so good question. Jordo3 says, what's your dad's favourite car that he ever owned? And what is your dream car? Well, I think I know the answer. I'm going to answer for you. Your Hillman Minx was your favourite car.
No.
Oh, I got it wrong.
Hillman Avenger.
Oh.
1600 GLS. Rostyle wheels. I talked about them. Sexy wheels.
So that was your favourite car?
Yeah.
What happened to it?
I sold it because you was on the way, I think.
Oh dear. But that was your favourite car?
Yeah.
Hillman Avenger,
1600
GLS.
Yeah.
Grasshopper green, vinyl roof.
It was. Faster than the 1600E Cortina. And up to 70 it would keep up with the Golf GTI.
Similar to your question then about the motorbikes, what's your dream car? If you could have any car, what is your dream car?
XJS in red.
There you go. Jaguar XJS in red. And the last from questions of the week from viewers. Grandad8753 says, can you share any of the tricks that you played on The Apprentices back in the early days of the motoring industry?
That's a long time ago, because Apprentices got wise and they didn't fall for it. And then it got to the
Stripey
point
paint?
but you weren't allowed to do it. But the best one I've seen, and I didn't do it, and it was a painter had an apprentice on his hands and knees blowing the paint on a sill to dry it. That's the one that sticks in my mind. He had him on his hands and knees blowing the paint to dry it.
Bit naughty.
And also,
it's naughty, that.
Then there's the rattle can one. Shake it until the rattle stops. I got caught with a short rest.
Long stand,
Yeah.
bubble for the spirit
Nobody's
level.
stupid enough to go fetch a box of grinder sparks. People aren't that silly.
But that's the best one.
Somebody got sent from that garage at the corner, which I'll not mention,
No.
right into town for 2 metres of fallopian tube.
I bet they couldn't find it.
And the trouble is now, but they send them what happens is, you see, they play well with it. No, mate, I should try so-and-so.
Yes.
But then it goes round the town because everybody's playing along with it.
Yes, absolutely. Bit naughty, but he still got paid his day's wages,
People
didn't he?
wouldn't do it now. You'd not get away with it.
Can't get away with that now.
You'd be
In trouble.
in for a disciplinary, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we don't advocate that, but also those times, fun times at work.
In fact, no, it's better now because I've seen it almost bordered on bullying.
Yeah, and I don't advocate that.
No,
People go to work to have a good...
people getting their private sprayed with paint is not funny.
No,
Or greased. It has been done, but that was before my time.
exactly.
But that's
Times have
bullying.
changed.
It's bullying,
Yeah,
that is.
absolutely. Good, that's answered the question. That's the end of Q&A this week. If you have got a question, pop it in the comments below for either me or Dad, or if it's one for both of us. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on the social media as John Coupland. So if you've got me on there, stick a question through there and we will answer it in the coming weeks. It's time then to the end of the podcast. That's the end.
Can I point out another good thing about the snap-on ratchet screwdriver?
Yes, you can.
When you stood at the parts department waiting, you've got something to twiddle. It stops you scratching things.
That's nearly the end of this podcast then. It's the pilot episode, the first episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I suppose the only thing really to do is find out about Tool of the Week.
Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da. Here is Tool of the Week again. Had you forgotten about it? It's been sat there the entire show, the entire programme. Tell us about Tool of the Week then. Put us out of our misery.
Well,
what is it?
Everybody will see it's some form of puller, but it's got a specific purpose. And why they engineering at British Leyland decided we needed one of these, it's to remove the steering wheel on a Rover SD1.
Ah, there we go. To remove the steering wheel. So it's a steering wheel puller.
It is.
But it's purely for an
It
SD1.
was on the tool board, and it is to remove the steering wheel on an SD1.
Show us how you use it quick.
Easy peasy, easy peasy. You take the top bit off with the horn button thingy, screw that in it, wind that up, and it pulls off the steering wheel. I bet you could probably get the steering wheel off by going...
But that's the genuine proper
That's the
Rover
proper
British
tool
Leyland
that they determined that we should use to remove... And it works.
There you go. Tool of the Week.
Why struggle if you've got the tool?
Yeah, exactly. If you got that right, well done to you. You are an absolute legend. Let us know in the comments below again if you got that right. Next week, Tool of the Week, you'll have to think of something more exciting than a Rover.
Have I got something exciting?
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Have a great day, whatever you're getting up to. Anything else from you on this podcast before we end this video? Keep spannering. Have a great day. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you haven't already done so. Until next time, from the workshop, take care. Goodbye.
So, yeah.
If you've enjoyed this video, I've selected a few more specially for you on this page. Click either side to select them now. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button to always stay up to date with the channel.